Her body was shattered, bruises painting her skin in cruel colors, her torn calico dress clinging by threads as she crouched beneath the sprawling arms of an ancient oak on the edge of a dead town. Blood had long since dried into the scrap of fabric she pressed to herself, her chest rising and falling with shallow, panicked breaths. Her eyes were swollen, lips split and raw. And yet, through the silence, she whispered the same broken plea over and over, as though words could still shield her. "Please, don't touch me." What had driven a young woman to this graveyard of a town, left half alive and stripped of dignity in the dust of a place the world had already forgotten? Who had carved such terror into her bones? And in a land so godless, would anyone even dare to save her? The year was 1891, high summer, when the prairie shimmered like molten glass and the ground cracked under a pitiless sun. Calico Ridge, once a roaring gold-rush town, now lay hollow, its wooden saloons sagging like tired skeletons. Folk said ghosts walked its alleys, miners who never left. But on this day, there was nothing ghostly about the evil rooted there. Jonas McGraw had never gone looking for trouble. At 59, his beard gray with dust and years of solitude, he had long since ridden far from the noise of men. He preferred the company of his horse, the whisper of wind through sagebrush, and whiskey that burned more than it healed. But as he topped the ridge and looked down, he saw her, Lydia Mercer, broken and trembling beneath that oak, and something deep inside him stirred awake. She couldn't have been more than 27, her youth stripped by violence that needed no telling. Her shaking hands clutched the cloth tighter as he approached, as though even the shape of another human meant danger. Jonas froze. He'd seen men gutted in bar brawls, shot down in duels, left for coyotes. But the sight of her, a woman undone like this, cut deeper than any bullet. For one hard moment, he thought of turning away. He'd spent years doing just that, keeping his distance from the pain of others. But in her eyes, beyond the terror, flickered something stubborn, something that refused to die. A plea, quiet but fierce, live. Would he ride on, as he had always done? Or would this shattered woman force him to take his first stand in years? Jonas crouched slow, voice even as a still pond. Told her his name. Told her he meant no harm. For a long while, Lydia didn't answer. She only shook her head, clutching the rag tighter. Then, in a rasp that barely carried, she spoke, and what she said made his blood run like ice. She hadn't been taken by passing drifters or nameless outlaws. No, the men who broke her were the very ones who once wore badges. The remnants of law had rotted into something fouler than outlaws ever dreamed. The old deputy, once sworn to keep order, now ruled this carcass of a town with a gang at his back. They owned every splintered saloon, every bullet scar in those walls. And Lydia, she wasn't the first. Her voice trembled as she told Jonas, wagons gone missing, travelers vanished, bodies never found. She was one of the few unlucky enough to be kept alive, beaten down, played with, until she barely remembered her own name. Jonas leaned back hard against the oak, the truth slicing him raw. He remembered a ranch hand he'd seen whipped bloody years ago, by a sheriff who wore the same smile these men likely wore. He'd walked away then. Kept walking all his life. But staring at Lydia now, he knew, if he left her here, he wasn't just turning from her, he was turning from every soul those devils had crushed. For the first time in decades, choice weighed on him like a yoke of stone. He could still leave. His horse, Boone, was tethered just beyond the rise. He could vanish into the plains. But then her eyes found his, tired, broken, yet alive. And then, a sound cut the stillness. A twig snapping sharp as a gunshot. Jonas felt it in his spine. They weren't alone anymore. He rose slow, fingers slipping to the worn grip of his Colt. The clearing seemed to hold its breath. Lydia stiffened, clutching the cloth as though it could still hide her from hell. From the shadows beyond the fence, a man stepped out. Tall, greasy hair tucked under a black hat, pistol loose in his hand. His grin wasn't born of humor, it was the grin of a man who liked hurting. Jonas knew his kind. Seen them in saloons from Abilene to Tucson. Men who only smiled when blood ran. Well, well. The outlaw's voice was a sneer. His eyes dragged from Lydia to Jonas. Looks like the bird found herself a hero. Lydia shrank against the oak, a silent cry caught in her throat. Jonas said nothing. Didn't move. His pulse was steady, but rage rolled in him like distant thunder. The man tipped his gun toward Lydia, lazy as death. Like ending her would be nothing more than snuffing a lamp. For one suspended breath, the world stilled. Jonas thought of every bruise carved into her skin. Every scream swallowed under these trees. That was enough. His Colt rose smooth as breath. A single shot cracked the silence wide open. The outlaw jerked, disbelief flickering before he fell face first into the dust. The clearing reeked of gunpowder. Lydia gasped, not in fear, but something close to release, as if breath had returned to her after days without it. Jonas lowered the Colt. He knew what that shot meant. The gang would hear. They would come. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like running. He moved fast. Hauled Lydia to her feet, firm but not cruel. She winced, then let him lift her into Boone's saddle. Her fingers locked on the horn like life itself. Jonas swung up behind her, spurred the gelding hard. Boone leapt forward, and the prairie exploded beneath them. Behind, hoofbeats rolled like thunder. Shouts split the air. Jonas risked a glance. 6, maybe 7 riders pouring from Calico Ridge, rifles gleamed. A shot cracked. Dirt spat near Boone's hooves. Lydia flinched, clutching tight. Jonas twisted in the saddle, fired back, a warning, not a kill. They only needed a breath. Up ahead, a line of broken fence stretched across the plain. No time to skirt it. Jonas gave Boone his head. The horse surged, splintered wood exploding as they tore through. Riders behind faltered just long enough. Jonas drove Boone toward the hills, where the yawning mouth of an old mine promised shadow. They dove inside. Cool darkness swallowed them whole. Outside, the gang's fury roared past, blind in their dust. Jonas slid from the saddle, Colt ready. Listened until the hoofbeats faded. For now, they had bought time. Lydia sagged against the rock wall, trembling but alive. In the dim, her voice cracked as she spoke, and what she said next changed everything Jonas thought he knew about her. She let the rag slip from her shoulders. The wounds told their own tale, skin torn, bruises deep. But beneath that ruin burned something harder than steel. She wasn't done. She was fighting, even now. Her eyes found his, not with terror, but with the faintest trace of trust. And in that trust, Jonas saw himself. Saw all the wasted years of silence. All the running. And realized, maybe life wasn't through with him yet. In the days to come, as they crossed the wild country toward Santa Enza, Lydia's steps grew sure. Once, she even smiled at a patch of wildflowers breaking through stone. It wasn't much. But it was enough. Maybe that's the truth buried in this tale. Life can grind us down until we believe we're nothing but scars. But sometimes, just sometimes, a single hand that doesn't turn away can change everything. So I'll ask you this, who in your life is waiting for you not to walk away? And if you're the one broken, what might happen if you let someone in, even a little? If you felt something in this story, if you believe in second chances, hit that like button and subscribe. Every week, we bring you true tales of the West, not just about gunfights and outlaws, but about people who clawed their way back to hope. Because that's what Jonas and Lydia found. Not a promise carved in stone, but a quiet kind of love that healed without words. A reminder that even in the dust and blood, the West was never just about killing. It was about redemption. And maybe that's what we're all still looking for.